So, all right, we should be, can you guys see this? Okay, can you see that, or are you seeing me? I'm gonna stop sharing just because I can't tell what you're seeing, so hang on. Try this one more time. Okay, there we go. Okay, so in terms of doing a worksheet or this particular template, you're going to be thinking about the professional learning community either that you're in or one that you would like to be in. So you can either use the real thing or you can do a pretend one. Either one is going to be fine. So remember too that our professional learning communities focus on and ensure learning for all. It's to help us to collaborate and work interdependently. And of course, it's about really getting results and it's part of that continuous improvement process, okay? So you're gonna name the team. So it could be the, let's pick one, the algebra teachers at Johnson High School. Then you would name the team members. So maybe it's gonna consist of the department chair and then the 3 algebra teachers. You can give me an actual name if you want, or you can just put their role, whichever you prefer. If you give me a name, now tell me what they do within that PLC. So don't just say, you know, Miss Smith, Miss Williams, Mr. you know, Carter or whatever. I need to know, I'd really rather know more their role. So it might be math department chair, the math instructional coach, and 3 algebra teachers. That's really the better description than if you actually give me a name, okay? So step 1. You're going to brainstorm areas that you believe might need improvement. So we've looked at data, you know, kind of, and done some of that work and all of that. So what do you think might need improvement? So it may be that you need to improve your end of course assessment results. You may need to, the students seem to be struggling with solving multi-step equations. That may be it. Whatever it is that you think might need to be worked on within the PLC. And then you're also gonna, sorry, my boss just popped up with a message for me, sorry. I was distracted there. So tell me what it is that you need to improve and tell me where you got that from, okay? So it may be from your test data. It may be from, you're looking at student work samples and you realize, gosh, students really did not master this. So tell me what it is you want to work on, only one thing, and where you got that information. Okay, so step number 2. So what is it that, based on that one particular need, what is it you want to accomplish? So for example, going back to our algebra, let's say the students are really struggling with solving multi-step problems. So what are we going to work on this year? We're going to work on improving our results with our students and help them to get better at solving multi-step problems. And we want them to do that at a high rate of accuracy, okay? So step number 3, highlight the district goals that align with that. So hopefully if you're using a real PLC, you can pull up some goals. If not, I would probably pick on, I'm trying to think of some pretty good goals out there. Irving ISD in Texas has good goals. Caddo Parish here in Louisiana, just pick a goal that kind of makes sense because pretty much any school district or parish is going to have some kind of a goal about improving student achievement or ensuring learning for all or whatever. So just, you know, find that goal if you can for your particular school district or parish and write that in there, okay? Then step number 4. So remember, we're going to write 2 goals. One is going to be for a student and the other one is going to be either for yourself or a member of your professional learning community. So SMART stands for 5 things. A good SMART goal must be specific, it must be measurable, it must be attainable, it has to be results oriented, and it has to be time bound. So a lot of times when people write goals, they leave out one or more parts of this particular thing. So how do you make it specific, measurable, attainable, results oriented, and time bound? If you break your goal down into these specific areas, it will help you to come up with that final SMART goal. So for example, students, let's go back to my algebra. Students will be able to, okay, so that tells me who my target audience is, solve multi-step algebraic equations, Okay, so now I know specifically what we're talking about. Multi-step algebraic equations with, this is the measurable part, and people miss this more than not. Students will be able to solve multi-step algebraic equations with 90% accuracy or better. So see how now it's specific and measurable by the end of the second trimester, or by, pick a date, March 1st, whatever. So now we know specifically when it is, it's time oriented. Is it attainable? Yeah, absolutely. If we do a good job teaching and planning, we can do that. And it's certainly results oriented, okay? So again, it doesn't have to be really long, but listen to my goal again, and hopefully you'll hear each one of these pieces. Students will be able to solve multi-step algebraic, or multi-process, I guess would be better, algebraic equations with 95% accuracy by the end of the second trimester as measured by the state end of course assessment test. Okay? So we've got all those parts. It's result oriented, it's measurable, it's attainable. We know the time frame by the end of the second trimester, and we even know what assessment we're using. Okay? So let's talk about a similar staff goal. So let's say that you guys are just now starting to form PLCs at your school. So we'll make that a goal. So it might be that the teachers at Johnson Elementary School will engage in professional development at least 5 times per year on effective professional learning communities as measured and assessed by attendance data and sign-in sheets. Okay. So again, measurable, did the teachers all, did the teachers go 5 times? And probably to make that even stronger, I would add a percentage. So 100% of the teachers at Johnson Elementary School will attend professional development on professional learning communities at least 5 times during the 2020-2021 school year. Okay. So we've got the specifics. They have to attend professional development. It's measurable because we want 100% of the teachers to hit and go to those 5 different sessions. Is that attainable? Probably might be a little hard to hit 100%, but it should be. What is the result? We want them to go and have this new learning. And what's the time? It's by the end of the 2020-2021 school year. Okay? So if you will write your goal and just break it down for me here so you can see and make sure you've got all the parts covered. Okay? So pretty simple, really. Okay? Then the second part of this is planning and focusing your work for the professional development. So this is just an agenda framework. It's very similar to what you did in one of the case studies. So just broad topics here, okay? So if you're leading a professional learning community, what are you gonna do in week 1? Well, generally what I would do is we do some team building, we set our norms, we maybe do an icebreaker. So what do we do the second week? Well, maybe we're going to start to pull together all of our data that we're going to be using and analyzing and all of that. And we're going to start pulling and looking at our standards. So in the second meeting, we're going to establish, we've got our norms now. We're going to establish what kind of resources and materials we need to all bring and pull to come together for the third meeting. So in the third meeting, we're going to maybe do week 3, we're going to look at that assessment results, and we're going to begin to identify strengths and or weaknesses. So in week 4, if we've done that analysis, now we're going to begin to look at and plan unit instruction, and we're going to make sure that we're hitting the RTI for students who mastered as well as for those students who didn't, okay? So that's going to be that planning and looking at instruction. So in week 5, now that we've got our unit plan, we're going to get even deeper, and we're going to really look at our standards and create and develop our lesson plans that are going to address the needs of our students as well as enrich those who've mastered the content. So like I said, you can be very broad here. You don't have to give me a whole lot of detail, but I want you to kind of think through this cycle so that when you actually begin to implement a PLC, that you really see how this cycle just kind of keeps going and going and going. Okay, so week 1 and 2, you know, basically it's just kind of planning, getting set up, make sure everybody understands. Then weeks 3, 4, and 5, it's usually going to be data, planning, evaluation, looking at evidence, student work samples, that kind of stuff. And then weeks 3, 4, and 5 is just a continual cycle that you'll follow throughout the rest of the school year. Okay. So that is it. Okay. I'm looking here real quickly. Okay, so in terms of naming the PLC, I'd really prefer, because you could tell me the actual names and I have no clue about any of them, who they are. So I'd rather you label them, maybe math teacher 1, algebra teacher 1, 3rd grade teacher number 1, 3rd grade teacher number 2, whatever. Then when you do not have to write in paragraph form, actually bullets kind of makes more sense. The only thing that would have to be a complete sentence is the actual SMART goal itself. Okay. These seem very similar to IEP goals. That's right. IEP goals written well are SMART goals. They are one and the same. Do you need references for this? No, you don't have to do references this time. I know I'm a stickler about that on every other thing, but you get a pass this time. You don't have to do in-text citations or references, since this is your thinking. Okay, so any questions about that? Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You guys have probably written goals a million times and just didn't realize they were called SMART goals. Good, everybody? Okay, then I'm going to, let me close that out real quick. And let me go back to, real quickly here. So we did the SMART goals. Sorry, my dog decided to bark like she always does. Okay, so in terms of the final exam, if you've not looked at it yet, I'm going to share this with you real quick. Yeah, there's probably some golfer on the golf course, God forbid, she can't stand it. She can see somebody out there from our yard. Oh, here she comes. Yes, Lucy, I know, you're all upset. Here, come here. Lucy, come here, because I know I'm not making you up. This is my crazy collie. Lucy, come here. Come over here, let me see you. Say hi. That'd be good. No, I don't want to hear it. No, hush, stop. Sorry. She thinks she has to protect our family from the golfers. I don't know what it is. Okay, so anyway, hopefully you're looking at the final exam. And it's basically 10 questions. Hush, Lucy, stop. You have one of 3 choices how you want to do this. You can, sorry, I may have to go shut her out in a second. So you can do either a PowerPoint presentation, a video, or an essay. And all you're doing is answering these questions, okay? Then a lot of times people have questions about what does it mean by editorial comments. Anything that you just think I need to know that would make the course better, something you liked particularly, you know, it's just really your thoughts. So I don't really grade on that, but I do appreciate the feedback. Hang on. I gotta go shut her out of the room. Just a second. Sorry, just on a tear tonight for some reason. So anyway, 10 questions, minimum or maximum. Please do not give me more than 12 slides. Ideally, you should be able to do this in 10 or less if you do the PowerPoint. The video, I say 5 to 15 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes is more than sufficient. Can you collaborate with your colleagues? Sure, absolutely, if you want to. And if you do the formal paper, I tried to make that really onerous because I don't want to have to read a bunch of those. But if you choose it, it does have to be 5 pages, double spaced, and you do have to provide, you know, references and stuff like that for the formal paper, but not for the others. No references required on the others. And you don't obviously need to do in-text citations. Okay. Yeah, so some of you are overachievers and you have 15 slides with a cover page, references, that's fine. I just don't want you to, if you haven't done this yet, you don't have to do all of that. I know you guys are all either in professional development or you've started school, you're starting school. So the bulk of the work has been done already for this course. So I don't want you guys to spend a whole lot of time on this because you've got more important things to do. And no, you do not have to do citations or references for the PowerPoint or the video. You only need citations and references if you choose to do the research paper. Okay. Some of your comments are really funny about the dog. Yeah, usually she's really quiet, but I don't know, there's something out on the golf course that it's probably because I freaked out because I went outside to get the mail and I saw a snake, and I am deathly afraid of snakes, like crazy, like I can't almost stand to look at them on the TV or in a book or something. And I freaked out, so I'm sure now she's all freaked out, and who knows, she may have cornered the snake in the backyard. I don't want to know. My husband can deal with that because, like I said, I told him we may have to move because I saw a snake. So anyway. Okay, any other questions, guys, about the assignments? Word limits? No, just kind of use good PowerPoint tips, I guess. You know, you don't write a paragraph generally in a PowerPoint. It's usually going to be bullets and stuff like that. But there's not a word limit now. Okay, we all good? Assignments. So you've got your SMART goals. You've got your case study number 3 to finish up and get to me if you haven't already. Any missing assignments, and then the final exam. And everything is open. So you should be able to access it without any problems, hopefully. Okay, questions going once, going twice? Okay, then we're gonna move on. So let me see if I can pull up our, move y'all real quick. I'm going to pull up our PowerPoint for tonight. And I'm not gonna go over this in great detail, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Because it is really a summation of the course and hopefully sort of the big main points that you have learned. So let me share my screen again. Yeah, and there's something weird. We talked about this the other day in our staff meeting at LSU. There's something weird going on with Moodle in that if you put this into the actual slideshow, it blocks everything else. So we can't see anything else on our screen. So I apologize that it looks kind of funky and weird. And you're seeing it more in the editing view, but I don't know what it is with Moodle and this and Zoom. It just kind of goes crazy. So tonight's our last Zoom meeting. And then, as you know, everything's due a week from Saturday, and that'll finish out our course. So let's talk just for a minute about what we hope that you have learned so far this year in this course. So we know that professional learning communities are collaborative groups that generally consist of teachers, but it may also, you can have a PLC that's made up of leaders, you can have a PLC that's made up of community members, you can have a PLC that's made up of students. I know one of the more interesting professional learning communities that we used when I was principal at MacArthur High School in Texas, we had an interview professional learning community. So when we were going to be hiring new people, we would look at our data, our needs, what constituted someone who'd be a good fit for us. So there were several criteria. But that particular professional learning community was made up of campus leadership. So it was, you know, myself and assistant principals. I had my head coach on there, my athletic director. A lot of people thought that was crazy, but he was very much a part of the team. But we also included students. And we took our students on interviews with us, and they asked, you know, questions, and we're very much a part of that. And they were very, very helpful. So they were able to help us identify those specific traits that would make a teacher effective. They also helped us to really kind of set some achievable goals in terms of hiring. So A professional learning community is any group of people who come together for the same purpose, and they're basically going to be looking at data, goal setting, assessment, so how, evaluation, whether it's formative or summative. They're going to share practices, and they're also going to use research and information to determine what they need to do within that. So this is a, we've talked about graphic organizers a tiny bit. This is called a bubble map. It is a thinking map, if you're familiar with those, but it shows you, I think, pretty clearly here what a professional learning community should be doing and what are those critical elements that make it up. We can also look at it here in just another graphic sense, and you guys can read, so I'm not going to go through all these. I'm just going to click past them. Let's talk for just a second though. How do you know if you have a healthy or high functioning PLC? Well, there's really two pieces that make that happen. The whole idea behind professional learning communities is that you are really committed to the process of continuous improvement. So through continuous improvement, you're always looking to get better and better and better at meeting the specific goals and objectives that your team has established. And everything that you do is based on actual data. It's not just, well, we think we need this, or maybe we should do that. It's really gets down to, you look at where students are, you know specifically what their needs are, and then you design teaching and instruction as well as curriculum around those key points where students are struggling. And guys, that's going to be probably even more important this year than ever, because we had such a disruptive school year, in the spring, and school just kind of basically stopped for a lot of kids. And I know I was talking the other day with, I won't tell you from where, but it's a curriculum director, and it took all I could do not to just like scream. But we were talking about, this school year and what that was going to look like from a curriculum standpoint. And she made the statement to me was, we're not going to go back and reteach. We're just moving ahead. And I thought, that's got to be the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Because you have a lot of students who literally lost 3 to 4 months of instruction. I know we all tried with online learning and all that, but let's be realistic. A lot of students, particularly your students who maybe aren't as affluent, didn't have a way to participate in online learning. Or even if they had the tools, they didn't have a structure or a support system that helped them to do that. So our students are coming to school this year with more gaps in learning than probably ever, in terms of just kind of where we've come from and how it's going to start. So it's going to be really critical that we look at data, because we all know there are certain basic concepts that if a student doesn't master them, it will continue to snowball to the point of the student will not do well on in the future. So for example, if a student doesn't understand basic numeracy and mathematical concepts that you normally teach in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, they might even make it through 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, might make it through the middle school. I promise you, if they don't understand those basic concepts, they will crater when they get to algebra. So that's why I think the professional learning community is going to be our best tool, if done well, to look at data and design instruction so that students can be successful. Because if there is a way to reteach basic concepts that students have missed while still continuing with your current curriculum. And that is done when you have great collaboration between experts in your field, which would be your professional learning community. So we know that there are 4 key questions. So what do we want students to learn? How will we know if they've learned it? What are we going to do if they don't learn it? And what if they already know it? So this is kind of that whole idea of what do we want students to learn? That's your standards and your data. How will we know if they've learned it? Well, what kind of assessment are you using, and how are you going to cycle that assessment and data and information? So you know exactly where students stand. What are you going to do if they don't learn it? So this is many times the RTI, the tier 2 and 3 interventions that happen. But then what do we do if they already know it? That's for your kids who still manage to master things and they need enrichment. So you have both sides. You have remediation, you have enrichment, and then hopefully you've got great first instruction in the middle that 90% of your students are doing well. Okay, so we're going to skip some of this. This is just an example of an agenda. So if you're struggling a little bit with your assignment on what do I do week 1, 2, 3, and 4 in that SMART goal template, you can always look at your textbook. There's some good examples there. There's also a couple in here too. So we're not going to go through all of that because you can certainly read it. Okay, so remember, when we start talking about a PLC, there's a certain, almost step-by-step, I guess, cycle that we have to go through. So you have to plan. PLCs don't just happen. So you have to spend some time pre-planning and getting everything set up. Then once you're in your PLC, it's important to take time for team building and that development of norms. There should also be time for goal setting. So what do we want to accomplish? And that's where that SMART goal comes in and is really, really helpful. We want to make sure that we're focusing on those essential 4 questions from before. You know, what do we want students to learn? How will we know if they've learned it? What do we do if they don't learn it? What do we do if they've mastered it? Then you also have to pay attention to curriculum, instruction, and assessment. So it's that idea of the triangle or the 3-legged table, that you have to have curriculum that's aligned to assessment, and you have to have instruction that's taught at the same level of rigor. So that's why we did some unpacking of goals and standards so that students can master the content. There has to be monitoring, adjusting, and evaluating throughout the entire process. So there's lots of ways to do that. There's some frameworks out there. You know, you guys may have something you're using in your school, but if you're doing anything other than this in your professional learning community, it's not a professional learning community. I can't tell you how many times I sat in on a professional learning community and they're talking about next week's field trip. They're talking, you know, they're planning for I don't even know if y'all do parties anymore in schools, but let's say the Valentine's party or whatever. That is not a professional learning community. So don't get me wrong. There has to be time and discussion about those operational kinds of things. I get that. But this should be sacred time where it's only about teaching, learning, curriculum, and assessment. So keep it sacred and have other meetings for the operational things that you need to do. Okay? So these are just some sort of foundational pieces, and that will hopefully help you. And let's see, we can skip some of this. There are some additional resources too that I've listed for you guys that I think are particularly helpful. So you can just do Google searches on these, but they're, like, for example, the PLC guidebook from Crowley ISD in Texas is excellent. In fact, if I were you, I'd download it and just, you know, shamelessly use a lot of their information because they really have it laid out very nicely. The same is true for some of these others. So I've given you a couple of links, but the rest of them you can just do a Google search, and I think I put a couple of them in your resources. So with that being said, just a reminder, all of your assignments are due August the 22nd, the last day of class. So, any questions, comments, concerns? We all good? Okay. So, well, you know, we're going to finish, like I said, a little bit early tonight. I'll give you about 20 minutes of your life back to you that you didn't expect. But I just want to tell you guys too, and I mean this sincerely, it has been such a pleasure to get to grow and learn with you guys. You have some wonderful ideas and experiences. And, you know, I feel so just blessed. I know we've got so much going on right now, and everything is in flux. It is at LSUS too right now. You know, so who knows if we're going to have classes starting in a few weeks or not. But we are so blessed to have you guys as teachers and leaders and working with our children. So just please know I'm here. If you need anything, do not hesitate to reach out. Hopefully I might have you in one of my other classes in the future. But I wish you guys well. You are truly the heroes that we all need to be celebrating. So good luck. Have the best school year ever. And if there's anything I can ever do to help you, please just reach out. Okay? Thank you, guys. I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. Y'all have a great school year. And remember, August 22nd. Thanks, guys.